Okay. Shabbat Shalom. This is one of those late night Shabbat sessions. Was trying to get on earlier, but time, the children, the typical things that happen in life. Okay. Shabbat. And I'm echoing to myself. All right. So we are coming to an end of our second Samuel series. I was intending on going live earlier, but I think it'll be cool for the people in other time zones who don't normally get to catch these lessons live. You will. I was going to record it and then premiere it in the morning, but I said, why not? Why not go now? Why not put it out there in its authentic form, as we always have done with this series? If this is your first time here, you are on the Her Royal Roots YouTube channel, and we are journeying through 2 Samuel, and we are at the conclusion of our 2 Samuel series in 2 Samuel chapter 24. The title of the lesson today is We Have Been Numbered. This is actually a very short ordeal, but there's so many layers to what's here. So I'm going to take my time. And when you guys tune in, check in, tap in, I hope that it is a blessing to you, because some lessons like this, you can't do them until you've kind of crossed some of your own hurdles. And over the last couple of months, it's been a lot of hurdles, a lot of crossing, a lot of decisions, a lot of obediences that have been delayed, which are essentially disobediences. And I've been looking at this passage. I can tell you, I have probably read 2 Samuel 24 at least 24 times at minimum. I'm saying minimum. It's probably much more than that. And everything didn't come together until I was willing to look at myself, look at the condition of us as a people, look at the condition of our servitude. And so today's lesson and the series on 2 Samuel, I'm trying to hold space for it without making this whole lesson about the journey that 1 and 2 Samuel has been, not only for my life, but I'm sure many of you. 1 and 2 Samuel have come to life for me in so many ways over the last couple of years, from how to deal wisely amongst your enemies, how to work in humility, how to recover from humility, how to ascend from those humbling moments toward the position and the place that Yah has, and not in a sense of to elevate, but really to fall down at the feet of Yah. And today's lesson is no different. I'm going to cover some things. Of course, we're going to do it with Hebrew words. And overall, I want us to find our space and find our place in the hearts of one another, and also to see what Yah wants from us toward one another in servitude. I think this is the biggest, outside of course, Hamashiach and his servitude toward the nation. This is one of the biggest chapters on what servitude looks like from leadership, and how we recover from our mistakes, and how we walk hand in hand with the people, and what a heart for Yah's people looks like. One of the interesting things about these numbers and the numbering is that it's not something that's foreign. We normally, in the process of doing these studies, always jump back to where in Torah these incidents come from. How could there be an issue or a violation? Well, there is not going to be one that we can't find in the text, because Yah is going to hold everyone accountable to his word and the fullness thereof. One of the things that was interesting to me, and I wrote it down as a question to myself, but I guess I'll read it to everyone. I said, have you ever wondered how in the time of scattering and disenfranchisement, the scripture speaks of how many people would perish in the last days? Zechariah chapter 13. Actually, let's look at it. I was going to kind of read it off the sheet, but let's go ahead and look at it together. We're going to turn to Zechariah chapter 13 and see what Yah is speaking of as it concerns the people. Okay, so Zechariah chapter 13. It says, in that day there shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanliness. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahuwah of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And I will also cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of Yahuwah. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth. And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed every one of his vision when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. But he shall say, I am no prophet, I am an husbandman. For man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. And one shall say unto him, what are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd and against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahuwah of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall scatter. And I will turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Yahuwah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people. And they shall say, Yahuwah is my Elohim. Zechariah 13 talks about how 2/3 will perish. That means cut off, but 1/3 will be tested and tried in the fire. The reason why a number or a percentage or a part can be given is because Yah knows the number of his people, no matter where they are. Today, we're going to look at what happens when the anger of Yahuwah is kindled against the people and they're numbered without ransom. Let's go to 2 Samuel 24. How this starts off is very interesting because it works in a type of chronological order. When you open up 2 Samuel chapter 24, it says and. But we know the chapter that preceded this, we hear the last part of David's life. So this is in conjunction with essentially the events that happen after the Gibeonites came and they asked for the sons of Saul, and Yah's pretty much bringing and reckoning everything with the people. But then there's still some ought that Yah seems to, based upon the text, have with the people. Now, before I jump directly into 2 Samuel chapter 24, we have to look at 1 Chronicles and see where there may be some contradictions. As I was going through this, over the past couple of weeks, I ran into what seemed to be a contradiction, and I kind of talked it through with some people, and there was a really cool chart that was made by a certain ministry, and I don't know if it's sharing. Can you see, or it's the reverse? Okay, so there are some things that can be perceived as contradictions. So I want to work through those before we get into the text, because I know it may be something that comes up, and I don't want to necessarily belabor what those contradictions may or may not be. So let's just look at them kind of briefly. So right at the beginning of 2 Samuel 24, it says that Yahuwah incited David to number Israel in verse 1. In verse 1 of 1 Chronicles 21, it says Hasatan, or the adversary, moved David to number Israel. That's also in verse 1. In this case, there is no contradiction. We're going to step on it and touch on it a little bit more, but there is no contradiction. We're going to look at how the one who provoked David to number the people and the one who had become the adversary to the people was one and the same. The term Satan or adversary is the idea that this force was on the opposing side of Israel. It was against Israel, it was against the people because of Yah's anger being kindled. Now, before you go, oh, she was gone for a couple months because she literally lost all of her marbles. We're going to kind of like spoiler alert it. So as we move through the text, we're going to see how we know it's Yah and not Hasatan. Well, we know it's Yah and not Hasatan because Yah at a particular point in the text, and we'll get there, is going to speak to the agent who is the destroyer, who is destroying or going to put his hand to destroy Israel. And the destroying agent is called the Angel of Yahuwah. Now, we've talked about this before. The Angel of Yahuwah and Yahuwah are one and the same. Yah's messenger is him. So when Yah speaks to the physical representation of his judgment, that which is executing judgment upon Israel, he doesn't say, hey, devil, hey, Satan, stop. He actually appeases himself through the angel of Yahuwah, as the text says. That's the first part. But if that's just not enough, let's go ahead and look at places in scripture where Yah talks about himself and what he does as an adversary against Israel and their disobedience. Let's start, a good place to start would be Isaiah 45:7. Isaiah 45:7 says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create dysfunction or create evil. I, Yahuwah, do all these things. Let's look at Isaiah 31:2. Yet he also is wise and will bring evil, dysfunction, and will not call back his words, but will rise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of them that work iniquity. Yeah. All right, let's look at Lamentations 3:38. It says, out of the mouth of the Most High proceedeth not evil and good. Wherefore doth a living man complain, a man for the punishment of his sins? Let us search and try our ways and turn again to Yahuwah. So we can see here that the provocation when Yah works on the side of dysfunction in our lives is to get us to turn back to him. It's not to push us away. It's not to deceive us. It's not to destroy us, but it's to call us back to him. If Yah never allows any dysfunction in our lives, then guess what we'll do? We'll stay in certain circumstances. We'll stay hemmed in by those unfavorable circumstances. Last one, let's look at Amos 3:6. Amos 3:6 says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and Yahuwah hath not done it? So I think that proves the point of the first part of a contradiction. Who is doing what is happening in 2 Samuel chapter 24? I'm going to touch on that again a little bit, but who is doing it? Yah is doing it. Yah is doing it. All right, the second contradiction that some may come across if you're reading the parallels between 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles is in verse 9 of 2 Samuel 24, it says 800,000 valiant men who drew the sword. And in 1 Chronicles 21, verse 5, it says 1,100,000 men who drew the sword. So the 1,100,000 describes the grand total for Israel. This includes a standing army of 12 units of men, 24,000 each, which is 288,000, plus the 12,000 men attached to Jerusalem and the chariot cities. So you can see First Chronicles 27, 1 through 15, and Second Chronicles 1 through 14, and you're going to get 800,000 plus 228,000 plus 12 equals 1,100,000. The next seeming contradiction is in the same verse, and it's dealing with the men of Judah. In 2 Samuel 24, it says 500,000 men of Judah. And in 1 Chronicles 21, it says 470,000 men of Judah. Chronicles did not include the 30,000 standing man army of Judah. See 2 Samuel 6 and 1. So 470,000 plus 30 equals 500,000. All right. The last one is, well, I'll give you a couple. So the next one is 2 Samuel 24, when David is going to be offered an alternative. And Gad, the seer, is going to say, would you like 7 years of famine? That's in verse 13. But in 1 Chronicles 21, it says 3 years of famine. So some people go, oh, no, it's an error. But the famine in 2 Samuel 21, as it pertained to the Gibeonites, had already been going on. And when Yahuwah spoke to David, the famine would continue, or it would kick back up, and you would enter back into this famine period, because what Yah was doing is literally getting Israel right. You've wronged here, you've wronged here, you've wronged here, and you're still kindling my anger. So there was a series of things. So what seems like a break between 21 and 24 is not a break, but a continuation of offenses between Israel, Judah, and their Elohim. And so Yah is literally cleaning up house. He's cleaning up house. All right. And then the next one, the threshing floor of Aruna. And it's actually, there's one part, it says Aruyah. And the Jebusite, and the threshing floor of Ornan, the Jebusite. One in the same variation of spelling. It could be one is spelled in the Near East tongue of this particular group. The other thing is the root word is similar. It's interesting because the root word actually refers to what is a ark. Arun is the word for ark. And it's interesting, his name is Aruna, the Jebusite, a king of Yebus. All right. And then the last one, I believe, is 2 Samuel 24, where David buys a threshing floor for 50 shekels buys a threshing floor and oxen for 50 shekels of silver. And then in 1 Chronicles 21, David gave Aruna 600 shekels of gold by weight for the site. David ends up buying literally all the plains of Moriah. We're going to get there. He buys a threshing floor, but he actually secures this whole entire area. And it's amazing. So I want to give you that just for those students of scripture or dissenters who are like, oh, well, did you notice that this was a contradiction? Or did you notice how this was wrong? There are things, but if you allow scripture to interpret scripture, it all makes sense in time. All right, let's get back to where we were. 2 Samuel 24, verse 1. And the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Judah. Gotta stop. Like, as soon as you start, you have to stop. So what does it mean? What does it mean when we say, and the anger of Yahuwah was kindled? Well, first of all, we talked about and. So the and is a conjunction attaching it to some previous action. It doesn't start on its own. And again, which is a continuation of something, the anger of Yahuwah is kindled. As I read through this, I kind of gave my own translation, and it was, and continued to do that which frustrated and to anger Yahuwah, or it was continued to be done in Israel, and David was incited against them to command to walk and divide Israel and Judah. The word here for numbered is not the number where we go, oh, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's not that kind of number. Yes, the people are counted, but the word is manah, and it means to reckon Israel and Judah. It literally means to divide. It literally means to bring into the balance. It means to count or take a census to determine the quantity of objects, but then to divide in part and to remit to a portion, to send or a lot. So there's a lot happening when the people are numbered. And so it says, for the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, go now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number ye the people, that I may know the number, the number, right? This is mispar, right? So this is literally like the number, the quantity, counted of the people. So he said, number ye the people, literally mean to inspect and visit. So the first one, he says, from Dan even to Beersheba, number. This word is pakad. So there's like 3 words working here that tell the whole story. So he says, and number, pakad ye the people. It says literally to visit, to inspect, to look, to see, to command, to summon, to appoint, to muster, to avenge, to afflict, to hand over. Because depending on the visitation, right, of those who are called to number, they're going to see a bunch of different things. The response of the people may be a bunch of different ways, right? So the first thing he says is visit them, inspect the people. He's been enticed and evoked by Yah to now put his eyes on the dealings that are happening within Israel and Judah. See, a lot of times we don't want to do that. We don't want to look at the dealings that happen in our house. We don't want to look at the dealings that are happening within our nation because they're sad. They're sad and they're heartbreaking. And we would rather turn away from what that looks like and put blinders on our eyes than to look in, to visit and see how we can stand in the gap and make things whole. See, we don't like that. We don't like the proximity of community. We don't like the proximity of what the king does when he begins to look in and inspect our lives and what they look like and begins to separate a lot, pull apart, call to, right? Summons and appoint us to particular things. It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us uncomfortable when we look in one space and we see people striving for righteousness. And then we ourselves are not in that position. So we want to say, no, you go in a corner, you go in a box. That we don't want that, because what are you trying to get me to do what you're doing? See, Yah is looking, he sees everything. And what we see in this situation is the people are not only numbered, pakad, right? But that I may know the number. He said, number them and let me know how many people. Let me see what they're doing and tell me who's doing it. And Joab said unto the king, now Yahuwah the Elohim add to the people, how many soever they may be in 100-fold, that the eyes of Yahuwah, that the eyes of my master the king may see it. He said, there's people. But what David said when he said pakad, he wasn't asking about people. He wasn't asking about just the number of people. David didn't just number quantity. He numbered the quality of the people. And this is why Joab is like, y'all gonna add to y'all's people. Y'all do what he gonna do. He is increasing the people. And that wasn't what David said. The enticement by Yah was not just a count. Yah knows, we mentioned in the beginning, Yah knows who's gonna perish and who's not. He knows what portion of the people are who. He's not asking just for numbers. He's asking for a detailed assessment of the doings of the people. Verse 4, same one. So Joab's still talking. But why doth my master, the king, delight in this thing? He said, why do you want to do this? What are you doing? Why? Notwithstanding, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the captain of the host. And Joab and the captains of the host went out from the presence of the king to number the people of Israel. See, the issue with reckoning is that everyone is claiming to be of the tribes, but are not operating according to the word. Why was Joab dissenting so hard to what the king said? The people are going to willingly allow, because of their pride, the interest, the inspection and the assessment without preparing for it. The same is true of us now. We're not asking the question of what does me counting myself as Israel cost me? What is that going to cost me? Many people have risen up to the beckoning of the call toward identity. You're a Hebrew, I'm a Hebrew, we Hebrews, with the expectation of redemption and restoration, but have failed to ask, what does this numbering and identifying myself cost me? What do I have to pay for this? For some of us, the cost is high. It will cost you marriage. It will cost you friendship. It will and probably has cost you family members, jobs, and so much more if you are only being counted for tribal affiliation. If only reason why you're being counted, right, is because you want the clout of Israel, but you're not doing the work of Israel, Yah will begin to take everything. He wants you. He wants the detailed inspection and introspection. But when you humble yourself and are counted as a servant, the cost is still high, but the return is a blessing to the kingdom. You don't want to be found wanting in the reckoning. I don't know whether to move forward or to stay right here on the street. It's real difficult because it kind of, we'll come back to it. We'll keep reading. We'll revisit what I was saying. We'll go back to those statements. I'll kind of lay it out a little bit more because that's something we need to sit on. Let's keep going because we need to figure out where's Torah in all this, right? Always. All right. So, and they passed over Jordan and pitched in Aroer on the right side of the city that lieth in the midst of the river of Gad and toward Yazir. Then they came to Gilead and to the land of Tatim Hodshi, and they came to Danjan and about to Zidon, and the Hivites, and to the stronghold of Tyre and to the cities of the Hivites and of the Canaanites, and they went out to the south of Judah, even to Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. And Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto the king. And there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men that drew the sword. And the men of Judah were 500,000 men. And David's heart smote him after that he had numbered Sephar, the people. And David said unto Yahuwah, I have sinned greatly. I missed the mark greatly in that I have done. And now I beseech thee, O Yahuwah, take away the iniquity of thy servant, for I've done foolishly. So the question is like, wait. He just counted people. He just literally just inspected the people. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? Something is terribly wrong with it because Torah gives us the instruction for how the people are to be numbered. What was wrong with David numbering the people? Was he just up like feeling that way because he counted? Is counting a sin? Well, let's look at what happened. Let's look at exactly what happened in this situation. Let's go over to Exodus chapter 30. All right, so we're getting some very interesting about Extra chapter 30. So it talks about the altar of incense, the altar of shittim wood. Told you that Ornan, the root word of his name is Arun, which also refers to that word for the ark. Literally, this thing is seamless. It's like literally woven together like a tight knit garment. It's amazing. So the first part is this is a talk about the altar of incense. He tells them how to make it. And he tells them how it's going to be laid with gold and what Aaron shall burn thereon, sweet incense. It should be a perpetual incense throughout your generations. No strange offering, no burnt offering, no meat offering, no sacrifice. All right. And it says, and Aaron shall make atonement upon the horns of it once in a year with the blood of sin offering atonements. I'll just give you a spoiler alert. Chapter 24 is all about atonement. The fact that the law that goes along with 2 Samuel chapter 24 is Exodus 30, and it's talking about atonement and what our presence and what our scent should be like before Yah is a whole nother lesson all in itself. Okay. But Aaron's going in to make atonement throughout your generations. It is most holy unto Yahuwah. Boom. Right after that. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, when thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number. He's like, we count the heads of the people. And it says after their number, after the inspection, after their visitation. This is not just the word for counting. This is the word pakad, right? It's the same word which means to visit, to inspect. When you look in, when you begin to examine the people, then shall they give every man a ransom. That word for ransom is an atonement. Every person has to give something that represents atonement for his soul unto Yahuwah. Now it's interesting because right above that, we see that Aaron goes in once a year to give something, to put blood and to atone for the people. But now we see something interesting here. See, when the people are numbered and the people are inspected, when they come under the careful eye of the leadership, right? Then every man has to give something for the atonement of his soul. So while there is something being done behind the veil in the Holy of Holies, there is also something that is to be done in your own heart, in your own Holy of Holies between you and Yah. And why? He says, when thou numberest them, it says that word pakad, root pakad, when thou numberest them, when you inspect and visit them and appoint them and command them and summons them and look at them intently, it says that there be no plague among them. Because guess what? When you look inside and when you number them, you're going to see some things. Some things are going to be taken into account. And if there is no ransom, if there's no covering for what is seen when the inspection and the introspection is done, then there's going to be plague among them. When I mentioned earlier, when you begin counting yourself as Israel, we keep wondering why when we begin coming into this walk and calling ourselves Hebrews, why things begin to seem to go all out of whack. I made a video a few years back. Sorry, my allergies are bothering me. I made a video a few years back and I talked about why, if I'm walking in Torah, do I still feel cursed? What is it? What's going on? What's going wrong? I'm got the fringes. I'm like working hard on trying to be a good mom and a good wife. I'm trying to teach Torah. I'm trying to help people learn Hebrew. I'm trying to literally come at myself. I'm writing letters to people on how I didn't wrong them and some more stuff. Why do I still feel like something is on? Why do I still feel uncovered? Why do I still feel like the plague has been released in my home, in my marriage, in my family? Why am I still experiencing these things? See, I numbered with my mouth. I invited introspection. I invited visitation. I invited appointment, but nobody told me that when I began to call myself according to Yah's name, and when I began to walk it out, that I didn't just need to apply his covering or his ransom, but I also had to ransom myself. I had to turn over me, and not just in lip service saying, oh yeah, I'm for you. No, but what have I vowed? What have I done? What have I put forth? What have I sacrificed? Have I literally taken myself to the altar and laid everything about me down? Or did I come as a disenfranchised one, banging the fourth tribe, and forgot that when I was counted and when I was numbered, I was then put into a space of being inspected? And when I was inspected, like we all will be, we're going to be found wanting. And if we don't know how to properly apply the ransom, if we don't know what to give and what that requires of us, then we will find ourselves in a plague. Says, read it again. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, when thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto Yahuwah. Atonement for your soul. When thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them when thou numberest them. What happens when we number people, when we begin helping people as we see it, wake up Jacob? What are we doing? What are we doing? Do we even know what we're doing? Are we just waking them up to the identity of who they are? Are we just telling them that they need to keep Torah? Are we just compelling them to keep feast days and wear fringes? What is the work of counting, looking out and saying, oh, that's Israel and that's Israel and you. What happens when we begin to pakad the people? When we begin to inspect and visit and number Yah's people? See, the numbering is for service and not clout. The pride of Israel has us numbering ourselves, but we have yet to bring the offering. We are counting ourselves as Israel, but we are not bringing our service. We are numbering ourselves as Israel, but the ransom price must be paid. Many people fail to realize that the ability to be in the house through Messiah does not make us entitled, spoiled brats, but makes us servants. We must serve. Our sin puts us into service. From the beginning, when Adam and Shua sinned, there was not a removal. Our disenfranchisement doesn't give us the removal of the obligation of service. So you're saying because we put ourselves through our disobedience, and our ancestors put themselves through their disobedience into the grips of Yah as our adversary, now all of a sudden Yah owes us. So we go around saying, oh, we the people, y'all not the people. We the people, y'all gonna know who the people is. It's almost like you're kind of throwing in Yah's face that he whooped you. And you have taken a lifted up position against everybody else and have failed to be a light of the world and a salt to the earth, because you want to be exalted without servitude. When Yah chose us, he chose us for service. He tells us in scripture, I didn't choose you because you were the best. I didn't choose you because I chose you because I want to do something with you. There were other people, there were other nations, better than you. But I chose you because I'm working out something with you. You're my servant. You're the apple of my eye. I am intently watching you. Wearing the blood of Messiah does not make us free to sin, nor does it make us ones to be served. The scripture teaches, Messiah has said over and over and over again, Yah's word in the flesh, Yah in the flesh, the servant is greatest in the kingdom. A Poor servant is a servant who tells that whom he is serving what he gonna do in servitude. A good servant asks the one who he has submitted himself to ask his master, how would you like me to serve you? See, one of the things, if anybody knows me, I can't stand it, is a person who comes into a space and then does what they think needs to be done in the space instead of asking me what I need help with. See, what you may think I need to work on, or what you may think I need help with in my house or in my life, may not be the thing I need help with. That may just be being neglected because of this huge other thing that's happening over here. So we think, Yah is saying, oh, go out here and puff these people up. Yeah, tell them who they are. And then you miss it. Because if you number them, and if you don't tell them that they owe the price of service, then you've counted them for slaughter. So the title is, we've been numbered. See, we've been being counted. Ain't nobody telling us that we got to serve once we've been counted. Our service is not our reasonable service. It's not that you should have left the weightier matters you should have done those things. It's you're not serving Yah. You're not doing Yah a favor by doing what you should have already been doing anyways. Oh, I'm serving Yah when I show up to the feast day. I'm serving Yah when I read my Bible. I'm serving Yah when I keep Shabbat. Seriously? Shabbat is for you. Torah is for you. The feast days are for you. What are you doing for Yah? See, we're selfish. We're selfish. And we can only see self. What we're going to realize is that a lot of the Yah you think you heard is the God in you telling you what you want to do for you. Because service hurts. Service requires a strict obedience in ways that normal man can't. It can only be done with the help of the Ruach. That's service. That is service. Wearing the garment of redemption is the marker of servitude. When we have been redeemed, we put on the garment of redemption, which shows that we are in service. To call yourself Israel, but to neglect to find your place of servitude to Yah and his people is equivalent to numbering the people, but not having a gift as a token for your ransom. There is a plague going out amongst Israel. And the only thing that will stop this plague is the proper alignment of Yah's people, servants and leadership under his authority. And when I say servants and leadership, I mean that these leaders should be servants. You shouldn't be serving your leadership without the reciprocity of them serving you back. Their reasonable service, our reasonable service is to teach the word. We're not doing you a favor by doing what we're supposed to do. A fish don't get credit for swimming. If Yah says speak, we speak. If Yah says shut up, we shut up. That is the reasonable service. It don't have nothing to do with the people. That's between me and Yah. I can't make you feel guilty for what I know I'm supposed to be doing. No, that's my reasonable service. The other part of my service is then to live a life and compel you to walk alongside me as I walk alongside Yah. That's the next part. And I got to tell you that part. I can't just tell you, oh, I sat around here and I felt good and I got this study and yeah, that's what I'm doing. Get with it. No. Who brags to the baby about feeding the baby? Everybody know the baby got to get fed. Every time you feed the baby, like, yeah, you know, I had to go to work to get this money to get this baby food, right? And you can't take this top off, right? You know, your hands ain't, you 5-6 month old, and I got to clean up your mouth, right? And I got to keep putting the food back. Like, who does that? A servant doesn't do that. A good nurturing parent sees that the servitude toward the child is a cultivation of self. Have you ever been a parent? You know that your children are your salvation. The scripture literally say for women, especially, that your salvation is in child rearing. Doing what the teachers do on the other side of the lens or in person or the servitude is our salvation. It's what we've been called to do. And when you find your call and what that is, that's your salvation. That's what you've been called to do. You're not doing nobody no favor for aligning with what you were placed on this planet, on this earth to do. That's how community works, when we all show up and do what we're supposed to do. We have counted ourselves when we declare that we are Hebrew, but we have not done right by the one who has paid the big price. See, big bank take little bank, right? Yah has done the big payment. And what he's saying is, just like when Yah tells us to give him a portion of the money he gives us. I allow you to breathe. I give you free oxygen. I'm not charging you PG&E for lights. I let the sun come out every day. I let oxygen come on. I'm not charging you for central air. So when I tell you give a portion back to me so that my kingdom work can keep going, you tell me, oh, no, this is my money. He's like, you literally go to work with the breath in your lungs that I give you every day. And you gonna tell me what you're not gonna give me in return. See, we got an issue. We have not yet been put into service. When Yahushua said it was finished, our work only began. When Yah's salvation paid the penalty for sin and death, paid the ransom that was due to Yah. We owed Yah payment we couldn't pay, right? And then when Yah says, okay, give me a little bit, we're like, no. And I'm not talking about tithes and offering. I'm talking about your service, whatever your service is. So don't cut me off and go into a weird space, because I know when you talk to Hebrews about money, it gets real interesting. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your service, whatever that is. And I'll add this part, though, where a man's money is, his heart is also. And vice versa, where his heart and his money is. So if it hits home, so be it. When Yahushua said the work is finished, our work only began, we must hand Yah back the required reciprocity for his redemptive work. His blood is the compensatory currency for our ransom. And because he paid the price with his own blood, if you don't believe me, Acts 20 and 28, and then go check out Exodus. Go back to him bringing us out of Egypt, which he's continually doing. He did it. He paid the price on his own. So when we look at the parable, I know you guys heard this parable, when it talks about the man who owed a little bit, and the man who owed a lot, and he went to the king and they gave the man that owed a lot, and he went and choked out the man that owed a little bit. Yo, that's us. That's us. That's us. Forgiven much, millions of dollars. There's no price to pay for what our sin required. Yah forgives it, and he says, now serve me. See, nobody else had a problem, but it's a lack of belief. When Yah came in the flesh and did the healing work, right? The people followed him because they know where their help and healing came from. Now, Yah has woken us up, and all of a sudden we forgot where Yah is, chasing people, putting people on pedestals, just losing it, completely losing it, not seeing that our service should be to him. Now that we are numbered and ransomed, we must uphold our side of the deal. When we were awakened to our responsibility to the word, we were required to take a vow. When we took the vow to serve Yah and walk in his statutes, we were bound in covenant, bound to a covenant of reciprocity. Yah became surety for us, and our reasonable service is to serve one another as unto Yah. This is not just a service of YouTube videos and feast day celebrations, but a service of growth, transparency, tenderness, and love for one another in humility. David's act of numbering the people costed thousands of lives. Get ready to get into it. Thousands of lives. David simply searching out the people and identifying Israel costing their lives because they didn't go into it with a heart of ransom and servitude. So it's not the first time. It's not the first time. It's not the first time that we've been numbered as a people. And I hope I've compelled you that when we are calling ourselves Israel and counting ourselves as Yah's, it's not for clout. It's not for bragging. It's not for boasting. To be numbered with Israel, like I said, requires service. So the question is, before we move on to the next part, how are you serving? How are you giving? To be numbered with Israel is to be called into a place where an atonement is necessary. We are quick to count, number, and wake up, but slow to show the steps into service and the path toward atonement. We'll talk about that today. To be numbered with Israel is to be taxed. Is to be taxed. Let's look at some of the numberings in scripture. Let's go to Exodus chapter 38. So you don't think this is the first time and nobody knew that you're supposed to bring something when you get counted as Israel. And this goes for, let me just say this, the bloodborn and the sojourner, because when the number was counted, the fighting men were counted. When the number went out, all those who considered themselves a part of Israel were counted. So let's say 5 generations have passed and y'all just kind of mixed in and say, excuse me, but whose grandfather was from one of those other nations that counted the people? You consider yourself a part of Israel, you have this same responsibility. Nobody's without excuse. The same law for the stranger, sojourner, and the homeborn. One law. All right. Exodus 38 and 25. I think I'm in 38. No, it's not going. Oh, here we go. All right. It says, and the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation was 100 talents and 1,750 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. A bakah for every man, that is half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for everyone that went to be numbered from 20 years old and upward, for 600,000 and 3,550 men. And of the 100 talents of silver were cast the sockets of the sanctuary. The service is for the kingdom. The service is for the tabernacle. The numbering is for service. When the people were numbered, they gave, and what was given, was used for service. It was used for the service. What was given was used for service. It went into the building of the tabernacle, for the caring of the people, for whatever. But in this case, they used it to literally put the sockets for the veil. Their money, their ransom was used to provide a place for them to go and get to be atoned for, essentially. What they gave went into the place where they could go and be atoned for. All right, let's look at Numbers chapter 1, verse 2. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, for 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one ahead of his house of his fathers. And these are the names of the men that shall stand with you. And he goes through and he names all the men of the tribes. And Aaron took these men, verse 17, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. As Yahuwah commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. And then he goes through and lists all of them. Numbers 31 and actually the Numbers 26 and 2. Which is funny because now we know why Numbers is Numbers. And now we know, while there's a plague in the book of Numbers, when people got too full of themselves, like the sons of Korah, start counting yourselves and telling who you are and telling who Yah ain't called you and Yah called you and Yah told you and Yah said, and then Yah was like, okay, show up with your sensors. Let me inspect you. And guess what they did? Didn't go. And guess what their wives and children did? Stood by the men of Korah. No, not I. It's a no for me. When the counting has happened, and when there is no covering, and when there is no atonement, and when there's no service, we, as Israel, step away from the tents of Korah. We do. Because if we do not go into service, once we start calling ourselves Israel, that service, like I said, is introspection, transparency, humility, love, right? If we don't do that, the ground is going to open up. The plague is going to happen. The plague happened in Numbers. They were calling themselves Israel. Korah was Israel, essentially. But the service was lacking. They were choosing how they wanted to serve. And they was banging on it. Oh, we going to do, anybody going out there to Moses. Okay. Yeah, I started. Open up the ground and sending out plagues. All right, Numbers chapter 26. Take the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel from 20 years old and upward throughout their father's house, all that are able to go to war in Israel. And Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, take the sum of the people from 20 years old and upward, as Yahuwah commanded Moses and the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt. There you have it. Yeah, same exact thing. All right, so let's go to Numbers 31 and 50. And then we'll get right back to what's going to happen. Because I know you're like, wait, where's the giant angel that comes out? We're getting there. So let's go back up. And the officers, no, let me go back a little bit further. Okay. Moses is counting. And he's taking the Yahuwah's tribute. He's going through all of the people. If you go back through Numbers chapter 31, literally a levy of the tribute of the men of war, men who have not been with a woman, sheep, cattle. He's going in. Then we get around verse 50. Oh, let's start 49. I think it's interesting. And they said unto Moshe, thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war, which are under our charge, and there lack not one man of us. We have therefore brought an oblation for Yahuwah, what every man hath gotten, of jewels of gold, chains, bracelets, rings, earrings, tablets, to make an atonement for our souls before Yahuwah. And Moses and Eleazar and the priest took the gold of them, even all wrought jewels, and all the gold of the offering that are offered up unto Yahuwah, of the captains of the 1,000, of the captains of the 100, was 16,750 shekels. For the men of war had taken spoil, every man for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold of the captains of the 1,000s, of the 100s, and brought it to the tabernacle of the congregation for a memorial for the children of Israel before Yahuwah. When we count ourselves as Israel, we give and we serve. All right, let's get back to the text. Everybody's like, when are we going to go back? We're going back. All right, so David smote in his heart. Why? Because there's Torah in application. A number that came back ain't in nobody's hands. Something's wrong. David's heart was smote in his chest because he knew his action violated Torah. And not just necessarily the numbering of the people, but the people were numbered, but there's nothing that's spoken of as ransom. And if you think I'm making it up, we're going to get to a point because David's going to do something on behalf of the people because of the lack of ransom. The law of Yah was written on David's heart. When a law is on your heart, it becomes your authority within. It becomes your guide. It becomes your moral compass. See, nobody had to go to David. I'm looking at you. And tell him that he had violated Torah because he knew Torah. And he didn't just know those little goofy not goofy. He didn't know those pet parts of Torah, right? Goofy's not the right word. I mean, those things that people just like, oh, I know this and I know that. No. He knew it intimately, to the point that when the census was brought back, his heart was smote, because he's like, oh, we counted and we didn't ransom. The interesting thing, though, is that 9 months went by. So even though his heart was smote in that moment, it wasn't until the full arrival of the incident that it happened. Sometimes it takes time for some people. Sometimes it takes time for some people to realize their fault. Sometimes it takes time for us to realize where we are, where we should have been. But it doesn't negate what we have to do when that happens. It was 9 months later. Whole baby could have been born in that time period, right? 9 months later. It wasn't until months later that David saw his actions in numbering the people. See, the things that we do in a moment can have lasting effects. But when we see the completion or the fullness of our sin, it oftentimes is a lot. See, y'all allowed it to happen. Y'all could have stopped it at month 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5. Y'all allowed that whole thing to happen. He allowed the census and the numbering to continue. Sometimes Yah will use us and allow things to happen that make no sense. He allows us to be agents of pain in our own lives because of our decisions, but also uses the same pain to allow us to be the agents of healing and restoration for ourselves and others. Sometimes Yah gives us a task that places us as a bridge between him and the people. Verse 11. For when David was up in the morning, the word of Yahuwah came unto the prophet Gad, David's seer, saying, Go and say unto David, Thus saith Yahuwah, I offer thee 3 things. 3 things. I don't want nobody to message me about my 3. It was like, seriously, don't. 3 things, okay? 3 things. Choose thee one of them, that I may do it unto thee. So Gad came to David and told him and said unto him, Shall 7 years of famine come unto thee in thy land? Or wilt thou flee 3 months before thine enemies while they pursue thee? Or that there be 3 days pestilence in thy land? Here's the plague. Here is the part that happens when there's no ransom. So if you say, well, maybe they did. They didn't, because y'all wouldn't be doing this if they did, right? Now advise and see what answer I will return to him that sent me. So interesting when Yah sends a seer. Nobody likes the prophet seer, like nobody. And it's interesting because we should. To have somebody that cares enough to speak to you when you're in your sin, to point out to you when you're wrong in love, with no bearing, hey, it ain't about me. I'm just doing what I've been told to do. Remember, I told you he don't get credit for swimming. Yeah, I told him to do what he had been put on this planet to do. He is David's seer. Now we know that David also there's also Nathan the prophet, but Gad's a seer. Gad is this individual who is standing in the gap and who is seeing what David can't see. See, having somebody who is willing to partner with you and see what you can't see is a blessing. And it can come in many forms. We have it in many forms in our community. We have it in the form of spouses. When you join with somebody, your spouse becomes your seer in that way, right? Where when you don't see, I see. When your back is turned, I'm watching your back, your front, and your side. Your friends and your community becomes your seer. They watch you and they watch what's happening, and they have their ear pressed to the ground in their prayer and supplication to make sure that you align where Yah says for you to align. So praise Yah for the seers in Israel. A while back, and sometimes it's not until things where we end up in pestilence and affliction that we see who our seers and our people are. Because a while back, I made a call, like, who are these people? Not only in my life, but in everybody else's life. And I promise you, when things happen, And when Yah is moving and when he's aligning or tearing down or rebuilding things, those people show up. When you are in alignment, the proper seers and the proper prophets show up, and they're not people at a distance. They're not people just on the other side of cameras. They're people who will pull up on you. They're people that'll tap your line, ring your line. There are people that'll come and pray with you and not pray on you. See, there is still a place, but it's not until we come in humility. It's not until Yah allows some things and takes us through some things that he begins to place the people who are going to be there to build us back up to where we're supposed to be. Gad, the seer, saw David and his call, and he saw David in his distress, or heard Yah prick his heart, and he goes to David and he brings those things and he says, okay, now tell me what you want to do. Let me see what I shall advise and answer. See, Yah created the go-between. We need people in our space who are continually in that position of prayer and continually in that position of being set apart so that they can stand in when we can't stand in for ourselves. Because clearly Yah didn't even want to talk to him. The seer had to speak to Yah for David. Even though Yah heard David, Yah sent somebody in between him and David so that David can understand that we create a little, you got to do some things to get back right. And those people stand in the gap. So I think that's beautiful. Gad pops up. All right. Verse 14. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. He says, let us fall now. He said, not let them, let us. As a good leader takes all the brunt of it with the people. Not, oh, you know, a little bit you, a little bit me, a little bit this, a little, no. Us. If we all in this together, right, then we take it all together. We take the chastisement together. We take the exaltation together. We take the humility together. We take the pestilence and the plague together, and we overcome together. The leader said, let us fall now into the hand of Yahuwah, for his mercies are great. And let me not fall into the hand of man. He's like, look, I did it with all of us. I'm not the only one in trouble. I don't want to take it just by myself. I can't. David was old. He's like, I'm going to die. If I go out here and try to flee before my enemies, we already know what happened to David last time we went on the battlefield. People will die because of that. Because if David goes out and tries to say, no, take me, put me out there, do it to me. Like, no, because if they kill you, then the enemy feels victorious. Then the enemy pursues the people, smite the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter, and then they'll get their hands on the sheep. Too wise for that. He's like, nope, I'm not so ignorant to think that I can bear this all by myself. So we'll do it together. 15. So Yahuwah sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning, even to the time appointed, and there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba. That's the span of where they counted, 70,000 men, 3 days. David said, look, it's better to collapse and to fall into the hands of Yah, because in our humility, he will show us mercy, than to fall at the mercy of man, because man will take advantage of your weakness and seek to keep you in bondage, or worse, show no more mercy and destroy you because of your ego. David's like, no. But even in his choice, it was a lot. These 70,000 are a lot of people. They ain't no small 70,000. But how much worse would it be if David hadn't fallen into the hands of Yah? Shows the magnitude of what this meant to Yah and what that ransom meant to Yah. Whew. And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, then Yahuwah repented him of the evil and said to the angel that destroyed the people, it is enough, stay now thy hand. So word repented here is not the typical word we see for repentance. It's not the word we see like teshuvah, like to return or to turn away from. The word here is actually nahum, and it means to literally be consoled and comforted. It literally, I'm looking for my note because this word stood out to me in a way that was, it literally means that he was pacified. He was pacified. And Yahuwah repented him of the evil, the dysfunction. Oh, so yeah, I did the dysfunction. I didn't make anything up at the beginning. Yah repented him of the evil and said to the angel that destroyed. Interesting, this word here for destroyed is mashhit. Mashhit. It's interesting because it's actually from the same root word as mashah or mashiach. The same one that is the destroyer is the same one that is the redeemer. The one who smears the blood for redemption, kafar, to cover, to atone, right, is the one who smears the blood in annihilation as well. When scripture says, who do you fear? You need to fear the one that can kill the body and cast the soul into hell. Like that's the one. That's the one to be feared. He tells him, literally, tells the angel, relax, release, be calm. I've appeased myself. That was enough. That's enough. Now let's wait and see now what the people are going to do. See, there was a ransom of the people, and then all of a sudden, it's almost literally like the angel is literally waiting and breathing and just standing there. If you don't believe me, let's keep going. It literally says, it is enough. Stay now thy hand. It's enough. This gonna get him. This gonna get him to see it. This right here is gonna get him to see it. And the angel of Yahuwah was by the threshing place. Literally. The threshing place of Aruna, or Ornan, the Jebusite. Literally the angel, fighting men. That's who were counted. 70,000 of them whooped in 3 days. Angel's sword said, hold on. Let's watch and see what they do. It's literally the whole book of Revelation, by the way. Pause, destruction, pause, wait, see what they're going to do. Destruction, pause, see, wait. There's themes here. So what happens? What happens? And David spake unto Yahuwah when he saw the angel that smote them. He saw him. He was like, yeah. David, baddest warrior, hands down, bar none, sees the angel, the Melech of Yahuwah, and is like, he didn't try to fight. He's like, and he spoke to Yahuwah and said, lo, I have sinned and I have done wickedly, but these sheep. What have they done? Let thine hand, I pray thee, be against me. Now he's like, I can't take this no more. I'd rather die than watch it. Said, let thine hand, I pray thee, be against me and against my father's house. Isn't that funny? Because it's the same thing that Moses asked. All of the righteous leaders get to a point, right, where they stop blame shifting and they stop trying to, and they're just like, kill me. I'd rather die than see the destruction of my people. And if I've done it, then let me die for it. Yeah, I still ain't talking to David, though. So then what did he do? And Gad came that day to David and said unto him, go up and rear an altar unto Yahuwah in the threshing floor of Aruna, the Jebusite. Now look here. It's one thing to see the angel of Yah from afar. It's a whole nother thing for Yah to say, now, go up right where you at. Go up where the literal angel that has destroyed 70,000 men is standing, sword in hand, resting. You're waiting, on guard. Go up right where he is, and put an altar on the threshing floor. Whew. Whew. And David, according to the saying of Gad, went up as Yahuwah commanded. David was literally putting his life on the line. He's like, oh, you want to put your life on the line? All right, go ahead. Go up. You just talking, or are you really about that life? Go up. You trust me? You literally putting your life in my hands. Trust me, go up. Go up. And Aruna looked. So Aruna is there too. It's interesting. You're going to see something. Looked and saw the king and his servants coming on toward him. And Aruna went and bowed himself before the king, on his face upon the ground. Who is Aruna? This dude is a Jebusite, has the threshing floor where the angel of Yah is literally standing. And this dude sees the king, and he, in humility, right? There's something, I'm going to tell you something about this space. The space is amazing. This text is amazing. Bible is amazing. All right. And Aruna said, wherefore is my master the king come to his servant? And David said, to buy the threshing floor of thee, to build an altar unto Yahuwah, that the plague may be stayed from the people. Because believe me, everybody knows what's happening. And Aruna said unto David, let my master the king take and offer up what seemeth good unto him. Behold, here be oxen for burnt sacrifice, and threshing instruments, and other instruments of oxen for wood. All these things did Aruna as a king. Wait. There's still a Jebusite king in Jerusalem? All these things did Aruna as a king give unto the king. And Aruna said unto the king, Yahuwah, your Elohim, accept thee. And the king said unto Aruna, nay, but I will surely buy it of thee at a price. If y'all not getting 50 million stories flow through your mind right now, I'm gonna need you to go back and read your Bible a little bit more, because this is amazing. Okay, he says, I'm gonna buy it from you for a price. I'll give you a hint. Hebron. Okay, just Hebron, Abraham. All right. He says, but no, I will buy it of thee at a price, neither will I offer. Neither will I offer burnt offerings unto Yahuwah my Elohim, of which doth cost me nothing. I'm about to give Yah something that don't cost me nothing. I'm not going to give Yah less than my service. If I don't feel it, it ain't service. No, you're not going to give me something to give my Elohim. No, thank you. Nope. I'll buy it though. I'll buy it. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. And David built there an altar unto Yahuwah and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. I'm not going to read the last line yet because I got to tell you something. Continue reading on, because some crazy stuff happens, right? David literally subdues all of his enemies, all of them. And when Solomon takes the throne, it's a time of peace, because David had done everything that Yah told him to do. This was the final thing. There is a Jebusite king on, just a spoiler alert, the Jebusite king is on Mount Moriah. That's where that is. That's that area, the hills of Moriah. He's in Jerusalem, but he's in this particular place. And this place is important because Moriah is literally the teaching place. It's the mountain of teaching. It's where where the teaching descends from, right? And there can't be another king in the land, right? That can't happen. So all of this happens, all of this, Yah's provocation, all what seemed to be for bad, right? Yah incites it because there's anger. Stuff had to be done. But at the end came the final defeat and claim to the land on the top of Mount Moriah, where the king of Jerusalem, due to land ownership and previous occupation, hands over the high place so that Solomon can build a temple to Yah. It don't get more perfect than that. The final story, right? How it all culminates. We've been saying this over and over again. Yah does the last part. We can only go so far. The final part, Yah does. Yah sends his melech, his messenger, which is him, stands on the threshing floor and claims it. Because what was Aruna going to do? Not give it? You want this that happened to all of them to happen to you? He was like, nope. What did Aruna say? He said, Yahuwah, your Elohim, accept thee. He said, He literally said, let him take pleasure in thee. Let him see you as favorable. And he was like, he handed it over. He was going to give it. He's like, take it. He's like, contracts. There has to be an exchange. I can't just take it from you, right? Remember Abraham? He's like, no. I can't just bury my wife here. I got to buy the plot. The plot becomes Hebron. It becomes a part of the inheritance of the children of Israel. Same thing with David here. Lest you be able to say that the temple that's built here later belongs to the Jebusites or to anybody else. This piece right here, Yah wants it. Yes, he is. And so I'm going to do whatever he tells me to. Yah says, go up and purchase it. He said, build an altar on it. Can't build an altar on something without exchange. You can build an altar on somebody else's land. So there's an exchange. The same place where Isaac was due to be sacrificed, Yah builds a temple for the sacrificial system, which is the place and the picture where salvation will be seen. The angel of Yah sees the place where the tabernacle would be built. The true and living tabernacle on Mount Moriah. Genesis chapter 4 then said, Yahuwah, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you. Second Chronicles, then Shlomo, Solomon, began to build the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem on Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, where Yahuwah appeared to his father David. It was on the threshing floor of Aruna, the Jebusite, the place provided by David. On the same place, on the same exact place, says Isaiah 2 and 3. I shouldn't say the same. On a mountain, which I believe is the same place. I could be wrong. I believe things are cyclical. And the people shall go and say, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us in the teaching place, mountain of teaching place, his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. Mount Moriah is a teaching place. The slaying of the oxen also is the place of the slaying of the strong leader. The picture of Mount Moriah, cyclical. It is believed that Messiah on one of the hills in the area of Moriah gave up his life as a ransom and as a go-between for the people, which should compel us to service. We see these pictures played out over and over and over again. And when we enter into service, when we enter into that space, when we enter into the acceptance of the covering the acceptance of the atonement. And we respond by then ransoming ourselves. Then we get it. That's when the plague is stayed. That's when the hand of the angel of Yahuwah is arrested. And he stands and he watches as Yah threshes us on the threshing floor, revealing the inside, the inner fruit, that part that Yah has been wanting. He wants us to come and put ourselves on the threshing floor and come to him. The chapter ends, and our time in 2 Samuel ends with, so Yahuwah was entreated for the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. I want to thank you guys for sticking through, not just tonight, but over the last couple of years to get to this point, to get to the point of service. I remember when I started this, these last few verses, I got to a point where I said, I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next. And it took some threshing, and it took some unfortunate changings, as you guys have all heard, and it took some separation, but I know what's next. I know what's next. So there will be announcements on what's next coming. Yeah, has given me what's next. I don't think I could have got to the end of here and giving you what comes after 2 Samuel without what has all the things that have transpired over the last few months. But I know where Yah has me, and I know where my service is, I know where my call is, I know where my vow is. And it was through working through the word and walking with Yah and living out so much of it. I'm able to be in that space right now to tell you, I know where it is. I know where it is. And I know what's next. And there's more. There's so much more. So I want to thank you guys for sticking through. I feel like I've graduated or something into a space of true servitude. Not saying that this wasn't service, but there's more. There's levels to our service, and we have to constantly be seeking and asking, Yah, what's next? What's more for you, not for me, for him. And so I am eternally grateful for each and every one of you, for the people that, through all of this have reached out, who have shared words of encouragement, who have seen the fruit of the labor that Yah has had me do, and have understood that nothing that has happened over the past few weeks, past few months, has been done lightly. And that my hope and my goal and my aspiration as a servant of Yah is to continue to serve him. And in the process of serving him, being transparent, being humble, and loving you all, continuing to love even those who you may think I don't love in the process of all of this. So I thank you. I thank you for those who have given, who have supported, who have Cash Apped or anything. I don't ask for money here. There's a link, but it's not something, it's what you guys do because you believe in what's happening here. And I want to continue to show you what has been happening from your, not only pouring in, but from what Yah has had us to do on this side. It hasn't stopped. Can't stop serving. That's my reasonable service. Can't stop doing that no matter what happens. As much as time and things would want us to step back and cower away, can't stop doing what each of us are called to do because of what Yah has done for us. So this is my service. This is my ransom. And those of you who have stood by and are doing the work, I will continue to do the work so that there is something. I don't want to be anybody's example, but there's something to look to. There's somebody to walk with. There's somebody to watch fall and say, well, how'd she get up? There's somebody to watch make mistakes and say, well, what did she do to fix it? There's somebody to watch disappoint and say, well, how did she get back up? And how did she realign with Yah? The same reason why we have these people in the scripture, the same reason why Yah has given us, each of us, somebody right here and right now in this hour to stand up and to be an example and an ensign for the nations, for all of the house of Israel, without respect of color. Everyone that has counted themselves amongst Israel, I'm here for all of it. So there will be more announcements to come. Thank you guys. Thank you for those who even tuned in at 12 o'clock, some 3 a.m. on the East Coast, some it may be daytime where you are. And for those who will watch this later, I appreciate you. I am eternally grateful for the opportunity to sit behind this camera, but also to see and hug and love all of you in person. And I'm still on the road, so I'll be seeing a lot more of you. Until then, Shabbat.